I'd like to confirm from all of us, have we been able to perform our the assignment we were given, all the tasks we were given during the last section? Where's the document again? Hello, is there anyone on the call that was unable to perform the task? Hello, am I speaking? Are we all tired?
Yes, we can hear you. We can hear you.
Okay, so I was asking if there is anyone on the call that was unable to perform the assignment that was given on the last call. Okay, so what I'm just going to do, I'm going to call, I'm going to call us randomly, right? You just show me your environment. I'll see the user you've created. So can we go with that? Hello? Hello?
Hi Farouk. Hi Farouk.
Hi, Debbie.
Yeah, I wasn't able to get mine done.
Oh, okay. Why was there an issue? Hello, Deborah. Hello.
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. I said, was there an issue? Why were you unable to
Yeah, so
get
let
it
me
done?
just show you what like you kept showing. Right. So once I log on, this is where like with the link you shared with me, this is just where it takes me to, and there's just um can you see my screen?
I can
Okay.
see your screen.
Yeah, so I was just quite um confused, I would say, because what all the things I clicked here wasn't taking me to what you shared.
Okay, so can you access the portal? Can you try to access the portal from a private browser? Tomiwa, I can see John's is raised. Tomiwa,
How do I make the browser private?
Okay, so that
oh,
just okay, no problem. Sorry, sorry, Farouk. Good afternoon. Sorry. Good evening, everyone.
yeah, good
Yeah,
evening.
I just want to ask Deborah, did you create tenants or you created?
No, I do like once I logged on, there was it wasn't. I was confused as to where to go to create the tenant. So that's
Okay, so for Deborah, right, I actually created a tenant for her and I sent her the credentials. So that's why I said she should navigate to a private browser. So Deborah, can you share your screen again?
okay. Okay. Um, can see my screen, I hope.
Yeah, I can see your screen. So at the right top right corner, you get to see a
Mm-hmm.
three dotted line before that copilot.
Yeah.
Yeah. So click on new in private windows.
Mm.
The third option.
Okay.
So navigate to the URL I shared with you.
Mm, I just go through the WhatsApp. Sorry. Let me just. I will just stop sharing for a second so I can check my.
The URL is straightforward, portal.office.com. Um, Okay. So apart from Deborah, is there any other person that was unable to perform the task?
Good evening, sir.
Yeah, Olawale.
Hello?
Hello.
Sir, I was not able to do it.
You are unable to do it. Why?
Yes, sir.
Um,
I when I tried creating a tenant account using Soundbox, they said I did not qualify for it. I still did some research on YouTube, but it still didn't work. Then the original first link that you sent to us, even when I used that one, it still kept on giving the same, using my phone number, it still kept on giving me the same error over and over and over. Then
is that
when I
Wale?
used the,
Is that
yes, sir, as
Wale?
well, sir. Yes, sir.
So Wale, I thought I shared you credentials for your demo tenant. I've created the tenant for you already, and I shared the demo with you. I mean, and I
Oh,
shared the credential with you.
I thought it was just a, what is it called? A working account. Because it was saying the password, okay, it was saying the password is not correct. Let me retry it again. So if it's possible, let me show you.
Um, Farouk, let me just share my screen again. I have logged on.
Hello, sir.
Okay, share your screen, Debbie.
Yeah.
Wale, I'm with
So
you.
this
Let's take
so
everything in common.
so this is the in private.
So have you from the in private what URL do you typed? Was it portal.office.com?
Yep, yeah, that's what
And
I
you used the
typed.
admin credential that I sent with you, that I shared
Exactly.
with you.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, just give me a minute. Just give me a
I tried to
minute to
like
cancel
watch
that.
videos, but it was not just taking me to what you were sharing that day.
Okay, let me see what I shared with you that day. Maybe. So just type admin. I want to know if it is actually the admin account you use. So can you open a new tab and go to admin.microsoft.com? Because I shared the admin credentials with you. Admin.microsoft.com. At the left hand, so why portal.office.com should give you admin access as well now. Can you open a new tab? Open a new tab. Open a
Okay.
new tab. A new tab.
Sorry. Yeah, I'm trying to take this away.
Open
Um,
a new tab. You have two tabs open. Just
yeah.
open a new tab. Yeah, so portal.office.com.
Hmm?
Don't use this one that has login.
Really?
Just type portal.office.com.
Okay. I don't know.
Yeah, press enter. Okay, so this three dotted line on the left hand side, can you select it?
And this is the
At
right.
the right hand, I mean at the left, at the lower part of the left hand side.
Oh, okay. Uh,
This is admin.
admin. All
Okay, cool.
right.
Yeah, so that's why you're unable to
Okay.
access it. Okay,
Okay. So I think I can move from here. I will be able to do all that while we're on the call now. Thank you.
okay, okay, cool. So for you, Adewale, um, I would need
Mhm.
to check the credential I sent to you. Let me check. This is this. I'm coming. Tell me why you wanted to say something. You can come in.
You already did what I wanted to when you were
Oh,
talking to the brother, so I just wanted to chip in. But you already did it.
okay, 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 cool. Okay, so I think we are good. So we can move to the next stage. Um, what's the password? Box. Okay, so that means we are all good. Okay, so for those of us that have created our account, right? Let me just call someone randomly to just let's see what you've done. Um, then who can I select? Someone ran away now. Someone ran away from the call. Okay, so who is Isaac? Hello, Isaac. Hello, hello, Isaac. Is Isaac on the call?
Yeah, hello, sorry. I didn't know you actually. Are you asking of
Okay, yeah,
Isaac, please?
yeah.
Okay,
So,
sorry.
were you in the last session?
No, unfortunately, this is my first session. I had joined the group sometime last week, but I was away, so I was unable to join the last session. However, the video I actually watched was for the very first session, and it was more or less an introductory class. So I hadn't actually followed up on the last session, which you gave the tag. So I'm not yet, but I am actually just joining the lecture for the first time.
Okay, cool. No problem. You can try to watch the second video so you can learn about the Office 365 environment and you can create your own demo environment. So you can join us in the practical session.
Yeah,
Okay,
sure,
so
sure. Sure.
um, David. So is David on the call? Or
Yes,
okay. So
yes, David is on
were
the
you able to
call.
yeah, so were you able to perform the tax we gave everyone last week? I mean
Yes, I was
on
able.
Saturday. You were
Yes, on
able to do
Saturday
that.
I was able to. Yes, I was able to
Okay.
do that, but at the moment I just joined from my phone because I'm not close to my system. I went out, but I was able to do my tax. I had to delete the old tenant I created, and then I created another tenant for the enterprise. So I was able to do that. But just give me some minutes. I'll soon be home so that I can
Okay.
access my system. Yes.
Okay. So is there anyone on the call that can just volunteer to share your screen? Let's see what you've done. Um, Tomiwa, can you or I don't want to call Tomiwa. Um, I don't want to call Tomiwa. I don't want to call Doni. Um,
I- Um, can I just like do one because I've done one just now. So can I just share my screen and
yeah, share
just
your
in
screen and
case?
let's see.
Yes. Okay.
Share your screen and let's see.
Mm, right. So they said create 5 users. So I'll just show you where's the. So I just created this one now. This is just one user without any rights. So I'll create another. user. So just for people to just see. Sorry. So it's automatically puts the display name and then so it said this is recommended. So this is what I did. And then this one should have um some admin access. So I think the what you shared said should have two security admins. So let me pick one. Let me use another one.
So I think we are good with that. We are good with that,
Yeah. Okay.
right?
Right.
Okay,
Okay.
so okay,
Thank
so
you.
yeah, thank you. So generally, right, generally for the dynamic group, were we able to create the dynamic group? Were we able to create the dynamic group as well? Because I think I had it that we should create a dynamic group and it should automatically add uh every users to the group. So were we able to create the dynamic group? The likes of Fumi, were you able to create the dynamic group? Um, wow, were you able to create the dynamic group? David, please.
Okay, for me, I was not. Hello? For me, for the dynamic group, I was not able to create that because I wanted to. I don't know if we could get more light on the about the dynamic group. And then if it's something that we can work around today or maybe can just show, but I was not able to achieve that.
Okay, noted. Fumi also said she was unable to do that. Donny, were you able to create the dynamic group?
Yeah, for me, I'm still trying to set up my what's it called? My demo environment for but from my tenants. I have a dynamic group, so I'm just trying to create it now. I'm trying to create the rule so that you can add users with department property to the group. So I can share my experience, but I'm just trying to create it now.
Okay. Nuruddin, were you able to create your dynamic group?
No, 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 I wasn't. I wasn't.
Okay. Benjamin, were you able to create your dynamic group?
I thought
Constance, yeah, Benjamin, were you able to create it?
no, I wasn't. Sorry about that.
Wow. And I thought you said we all performed all the assignments that were given. What about you, Constance? Okay, so in order not to waste our time, so Tomiwa, were you able to do yours?
No, no, I didn't create dynamic. I already
Yeah.
have I already have like an enterprise tenant already. Farouk.
Okay. And
I already have
do you
an
have a
enterprise.
dynamic group? Do you have a
I
dynamic group in your tenant?
don't have dynamic group then.
You don't have a dynamic group. Okay. So I explained how to create the dynamic group to everybody last week, right? I don't want to create a group for us, right? I'm going to show you how to do it again. I'm not going to create it. I'll just show you how to do it. I want us to make research on how to create it by ourselves, right? So I'm going to share my screen now. I'm going to share my screen. Just give me a minute. Uh, So let me navigate to my demo environment. So I'm trying to set up the MFA for my demo environment. That's all. Okay, so let me just add to this. So if you have any tasks that we were unable to do, can you just always drop it on the chat box while you are trying to do it so that we can always get to work around it, even while we are not on the call, right? So if it is a normal working hour, maybe during the normal working days or the normal regular working days, you can always drop any challenge you are facing. You can always drop it on the chat box so that people can support you. I expected that the dynamic group that everybody would have created it. But I'm going to show us I'll show us how to do it, but I won't do that. I won't create it. I'll just show you how to do it. So let me share my screen. Can you see my screen?
Yes, I can from my end.
Okay. So I'm sure all of us
Yes,
we
I
are
can see
very
the screen.
familiar. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I said I'm sure all of us we are very familiar with this portal, right? Except the I think Isaac that just joined the session today. Okay, so if I want to create a new group, just like I said on the last call, you go to new group, right? And when you come to new group, I said we should create different types of group. We have security group, we have Microsoft 365 group, right? So now for dynamic group, there are different types of as group assignment, right? For membership type, we have the assignment, we have the assigned type, we have the dynamic user, and we have the dynamic device. So the one I asked you to use is this dynamic user. And whenever you want to create a group using this dynamic user, right, it will ask you to add a query, right? So now it is this particular query I wanted us to read up on. I don't want to show us how to do this query. It's very, very straightforward. I just want us to watch videos on how to create this dynamic query, right? So it's very straightforward. Just go to group, right? Click on new group. Once you come to this membership type, you can either use a dynamic user or a dynamic device. Anyone, if you have devices in your environment, you can use that. But since it's a fresh environment, you can use dynamic user. Then come here, click on add query, right? You can learn how to add the query here. Once you click on this learn more, it will take you to Microsoft Doc where you would read how to write the query, right? It's very straightforward. It's just for you to add the expression. Very, very straightforward, right? If I click on add this expression, right? There's no need to even, I have an existing expression there. You select a property, right? What do you want to use? Do you want it to use user principal name? Do you want it to use ID? Do you want to use anything? Then you select your operator, right?
Mm.
And
Yeah.
finally select your value. So it's very straightforward, right? So do we all agree that we'll create it before the next call?
Yes.
Inshallah.
Yes.
Yeah,
Inshallah.
it's very straightforward. Yeah, there are thousands of videos on YouTube on how to do it, right? If you go to YouTube, this is YouTube. You can type how to create dynamic group in Azure AD. You see thousands of, see now, you see tons of videos that you can watch on how to do it. I don't want to show us how to do it by myself, right? So that's about that. I think that's the only difficult task in our first assignment. I think that's the only difficult task here. Every other tasks are very easy, right? So now I want us to move to the next part, which is the Microsoft Entra Identity and Access, right? Microsoft Entra Identity and Access. So now, is there anyone that understands what identity and access management is all about on the call? Do we have anybody that understands what identity and access management is? I want it to be an interactive session. That's why. Okay, Debbie.
So it's basically like giving rights to or making people not access more than they need to access. Like you need to identity and access management. So like depending on your roles or it can be role based depending on your role in a company. So you know like okay, this is the kind of access to give the person. Or it starts with password, logging in with your password, that's your identity, and then depending on like well, what you can access, depending on your role, will determine what you can access.
Oh, okay. Okay, cool. Cool. Yeah, you're almost there. You are correct, but you're almost there. Right. So is there another person that can explain it again?
Okay, for me, I see identity and access management as the set of rules that is defined within the Azure AD that identify each users and also specifies what they are able to access within the environment.
Okay, cool. Yeah, so you're also correct.
Okay.
Lawal,
evening.
okay. Good evening.
Okay, good evening. For me, okay, as if okay, just like we can say there is a resource an individual wants to access. So, in order to access that, so one needs to be verified that the person is a right person before the person can be authorized. So the identity, you'll be identified by means of your username and you'll be verified by means of your password before you can actually, so that at the end of the day, if the resource verifies you're actually the one, then you can be authorized to gain access to that particular resource. That's the way I see it.
Okay. Yeah. So I think all of us we actually got it. Nuruddin, you also want to add to it? I saw you raise your hand.
Yes, yes. So I think it's just basically, the first step is just verify identity. Then after verifying the identity is to grant permission. Either the person should be letting or not letting. So even after granting those permissions is also to protect data from cyber attacks. So I think those are just IAM. I think that's just IAM basically. Verify identity,
Oh,
grant
okay.
permission, and protect data.
Okay. Yeah. Also speaking to the same friend, so we are right. Tolua, do you also want to add to it?
What?
Hello?
Wait. Did you call me, Farouk?
Yeah, I thought you wanted to respond to the question. Okay.
Okay,
Okay.
okay. So okay, identity. Oh, don't worry. Please.
Identity and access management.
Sorry, I didn't know I was unmuted. No, please let's go on, please.
Oh, okay. Okay, cool. So now, everybody has actually explained it. Yeah. So as the name implies, right, it's just how we get to identify and how we're able to access an environment, right? And let's say, for instance, now looking at looking at any environment in general, not even infrastructure environment. Maybe I want to visit someone in a particular environment, or maybe I want to visit someone in a particular estate, right? Before I can be allowed to enter that estate, if it's all the secured estate, right? I'll need to identify myself before I can be granted access, right? And if in that estate they don't have if they don't have like security policies that um before people can be granted access, they must have the likes of access card. They must call you must call the person you are going to visit. If they don't have all those security measures in their estate, right? Trust me, any other person will just be granted access into the estate. Like a lot of things, people will come in, even the likes of kidnappers, the likes of armed robbers and co would gain access into the estate, right? So the same thing is coming into um, security in general, or infrastructure, or any environment in general. One of the most important aspects in security is identity and access management, because one of the easiest way attackers use to penetrate into environment is through identity and access management, the likes of weak password and the likes of weak credentials, right? So that's why identity and access management is very, very important, right? So which is about how we are able to identify and how we are able to grant access. So that's why organization, all they need to have complete end-to-end identity and access management procedures or policies in place, so that users would come in using their right credentials or using their right access, right? So I think that's straightforward, right? So now under the identity and access management, right, we now have different features. We have different features that comes around with it, right? One of the most important feature under the identity and access management is what is called multi-factor authentication, right? So what is multi-factor authentication? As the name implies, right? Multi-factor authentication is like a multiple way of you identifying yourself before you can be granted access, right? So I want to make a transfer. I want to make a transfer on my phone. I've inputted the details. Before I can be allowed to send the payment at the last stage, you'll be required to enter a PIN, or probably you'll be required to get a token before you can be able to go in. So that is just like an extra means of identifying that you are the one that want to do the actual thing, right? There are some people that or there are some people that before they can start their car, they have some security locks in their car, right? There are some people that there's a particular place that they must press before they can start their car. There are different multi-factor rules, different multi-factor procedures in different uh, areas, right? But for infrastructure environment, but for security in general, what multi-factor authentication does is that it allows you to be able to connect using an extra means of authentication, right? And under the Microsoft Identity and Access Management for multi-factor authentication, we have two methods for setting or enabling multi-factor authentication. We have what is called the security default, and we have conditional access. So security default is is like the legacy way that we used in those days before before conditional access came in, right? And for organizations that they don't have Entra ID, that's which we formerly know as Azure Active Directory Premium license. Those are the ones that use this security default. But if you have an extra Entra ID license, that's the premium Azure Active Directory, then it's always advisable for you to use conditional access. Because if you want to use conditional access, you have the option for you to be able to customize your multi-factor authentication. There are some people that would say, because multi-factor authentication sometimes is very stressful. So whenever we are trying to work within the office environment, multi-factor authentication should not come in, right? There are some people that want to define, or there are some people that might want to customize how they get to use their multi-factor authentication, right? So that's why conditional access is the best approach for you to configure your multi-factor authentication, right? So now, the second solution that we have here under the identity and access management is what is called the AD Connect sync, right? So now, when we look at infrastructure environment, before before cloud, before cloud came in, right? Before cloud came in, the way organizations operate is that they get to work directly from their own environment, right? So if I leave my office in those days, right? I leave my office, I won't be able to access any of my company resources again, right? Because then it was purely on-premise, right? But now development came in, and cloud infrastructure came, right? So with that cloud, everybody can now get to work from any environment. Even if I'm not within the office environment, I can get to access my organization resources. And that's why most of us can get to work from our phone. We can get to work from our laptop from home, right? So now, and most organizations, right? Even though almost all the organizations are kind of moving to the cloud now, right? But there are still some organizations that still operate in an hybrid way, right? Due to some compliance reasons, due to some security reasons, they still get to work in an hybrid way. That means they have an on-premise environment, they have a cloud environment, right? So now, how can we, let's say for instance, we make use of an on-premise environment, right? And we now want to move to cloud because the cloud is here and cloud has more benefits than on-premise. And all my users, because we created our users in the on-premise environment, that's in the on-premise Active Directory, right? We have all our laptops, they are joined into our on-premise Active Directory, right? The way you get to create your users from the Azure Active Directory, that's the way they get to create users from the on-premise Active Directory as well, right? So that means those users are sitting in the on-premise environment, while for the Azure Active Directory, they are sitting in the cloud environment. So now I have my users in the on-premise environment. I have my groups in the on-premise environment. I have my devices in the on-premise environment, right? So now there is cloud. People are now moving into cloud. So do I need to start creating my users in the cloud environment again? Because I've created them on-prem. What if I have about thousands of users, right? I have thousands of identities, thousands of resources in my on-premise environment. Do I need to start creating it in cloud, right? So that's why we have this solution that is called Azure Active Directory Connect, which is now called Entra ID Connect, right? So what it does is that it allows you to be able to synchronize your resources, your credentials from on-premise to the cloud, right? So that means our users that we've created in the on-premise environment, we can now use this AD Connect to synchronize our users from the on-premise to the cloud. We can use it to synchronize our group, those groups that we've created in the on-premise environment. We can now use it to synchronize those groups to the cloud, right? Our devices are sitting on-prem because we are joining our devices to our local domain, right? So we can now use this AD Connect to synchronize those devices to the cloud, right? So that whenever we create a user in the cloud environment, the user synchronizes to the on-prem, and whenever we create a user in the on-premise environment, the user also synchronizes to the cloud environment, right? So that is what this AD Connect is all about, right? So there are a lot of people on the call that this might be the first time they are getting to hear about AD Connect. So do you have any question on AD Connect before I move to the next solution? Even though most of all these things, I'll still show you around them. I'll still show you how to work around them in the demo environment. But I need to first explain them to you before I move to the demo environment. So are we all satisfied with the multi-factor authentication and the AD Connect?
Okay, Mr. Farouk, good evening, sir. So I just want to clarify this.
Okay, sir.
Is it the Entra ID or AD Connect that is actually used to synchronize resources, group, devices, and what have you from an on-premise environment to the cloud? So is it Entra ID or AD Connect? So because it's like you actually mentioned the two together.
Okay, yes. So now, you see AD, Azure Active Directory, right? Azure Active Directory is the same thing as Entra ID, right? So before, we call it Azure Active Directory. But now, Microsoft have changed Azure Active Directory to Entra ID, right? So what we use in synchronizing the identity is what is called AD Connect sync, right? AD Connect, right? And that AD Connect, right? You know, I told you that they've changed the name from that Azure Active Directory to Entra. So it's still the same thing as Entra ID sync, or we call it Entra ID Connect, right? So it's still the same thing. Is that okay,
Thank
Mr.
you so much.
Lawal? It's just the main picture. Yeah.
That is.
So that's why sometimes you might hear me saying Azure Active Directory. Sometimes you might hear me saying Entra ID. It's still the same thing. It's just that I'm not yet used to that Entra ID because Entra ID is a new name and I'm not yet used to it. So sometimes I would get to say Azure Active Directory. Sometimes, if I remember, I would say Entra ID, right? But it's the same thing I'm still speaking to. It's just in nomenclature. And that's the way Microsoft do. They get to change, not just Microsoft, generally, they get to change you get to change the names of their solutions regularly based on security trend, right? So that's what Entra or Azure AD Connect is all about, right? In fact, in fact, when we get to Azure, so we need to even set up our Active Directory. That's our on-premise Active Directory, but it might be kind of uh, very difficult for some people. So that was why I excluded it from this demo environment. But when we get to a particular point, by then I would give us access to Azure to Azure portal, right? Whereby you have Azure credit, you create virtual machine, you would you promote the virtual machine to AD Connect, I mean to Active Directory, right? So you can have an on-premise Active Directory. Then probably you might get to synchronize it to the cloud if you are okay with that. So, but basically that's multi-factor authentication. That is AD Connect. So now The next solution I want to talk about is conditional access, right? Even though I touched base around it under the multi-factor authentication, but you see this conditional access is a very, very powerful tool, right? Because this conditional access is very, very powerful. So let me explain what conditional access is all about. So now, conditional access, okay, before I explain it, is there anybody on the call that understand what conditional access is all about? I need to please just give me a minute. I want to on my router. I need to please just give me a minute. I want to on my router. Okay, so I'm back. So I was asking a question then or I asked a question there. Is there anybody that understand what conditional access is before I explain?
Okay, for me, what I know
Okay,
about
for
conditional.
me, what I
You can go on, David.
Sorry, I can hear myself. Okay. Okay, I say for me, what I understand as regards to conditional risk access, it's a set of controls that restricts users sign on or access to a particular data depending on maybe the device the person is signing in from or location or maybe some changes like that from the usual place the person signs in into that environment.
Okay, cool. You're almost there. Don, you wanted to speak then as well.
Yeah, I wanted to say that is a security features that applies policy based on condition. It might say if you are in certain location, you should not be able to log in. If you have certain IP address, you should not be able to. So it applies conditions for its policy.
Okay, cool. Thank you. I think that's also very similar. Um, okay, so let me, or do we have, is there any other person that wants to add to it before I come in? Okay, so now, David explained it, Doing also did. So they are both correct. I'll just add to what he said, right? So now, what conditional access does is that, as the name implies, it allows you to create condition into how people access, right? So what conditional access is that it's a solution that makes use of signal, right? It evaluates, hello? Okay. So what conditional access does is that it's a solution that evaluates the signal at which a particular request is coming in from, right? It evaluates the signal at which a particular request is coming from, right? It's now either accepts or it either grants the person the access or it blocks the user, right? So it evaluates the signal at which a particular request is coming from, right? And do you know the kind of signals it evaluates? So for instance, now, let's say I want to sign in into that portal.office.com that I gave all of us, or maybe admin.microsoft.com, right? So once I initiate the sign-in request, it evaluates it that, okay, oh, this person, Farouk.bakare at abc.com, is this person part of this organization? If yes, fine. This person is this person signing in with the right password? If yes, okay. So this person now, what kind of device is this person using to sign in into this environment? Is it a device that is compliant? Yes. Okay. This person coming, which location is this person coming from? Is this person coming from Lagos? Or this person is coming from maybe Russia? Or this person is coming from maybe a particular location, right? So now this location this person is coming in from, in this environment, did they approve that location, right? It would also evaluate the kind of risk level, the kind of IP this person is using to sign in. So it evaluates the signal, all available signal at which a particular sign-in is coming from. Then it either grants or it blocks the user from signing in. So now if it blocks the user, then that means you can't go in at all, right? But if you want to grant the user, you cannot come up with different conditions for you to grant the user. You can say, okay, oh, because this person is coming from a location, this person is coming from a very high risk location. This person must go through multi-factor authentication before you can go in. Or maybe this person must reset their password before they can go in. Or maybe this person, no, your device is not compliant. Before you can sign into this environment, first fix your phone, make it to be compliant before you can come in, right? Or maybe your device is not joined to the domain, right? No, your organization, they don't permit any device that is not joined to the domain. Go and join your device to the domain before you can come in, right? So it evaluates all those signals. So if you pass through that signal, then you can go in. So that's why I say this conditional access is very, very powerful. So that's what we use in either granting people access or blocking people access, right? So in summary, what conditional access does is that it evaluates the signal at which a particular request is coming from, a particular signing request is coming from, then it either grants the user access or blocks the user. If it blocks the user, you can't go in. But if you want to allow the user access, then you must go through the kind of conditions that the organization have in place, right? So that's basically what conditional access, that's what it does, right? So before I move down, let me just show you how the conditional access environment looks like, how the multi-factor authentication environment looks like. Then also for the AD Connect sync, I might not be able to fully show you that, but I'll just show you the cloud-based environment for that, right? So now let me go to my demo environment. So this is my demo environment. So now if you want to access the conditional access, right? Because conditional access is a feature under identity and access, which is Entra. So you have different ways to access the conditional access. For instance, now for those of us that are from this admin.microsoft.com, if you are in this admin portal, this is redirecting. No, it's redirecting to my domain environment. Am I too fast? Are we catching up? Let me hear from us.
Yeah,
Am I
we
too
are.
fast? Are we catching up?
No,
Are we all
yeah.
here? Can we all give thumbs up? I want to know if all of us are here. Chidi, thank you. Is Debbie on the call? Is doing okay, Lawal, thank you. The likes of John, thank you. Who else? I don't think Benjamin is on the call. Um Fumi, Tomiwa. Sorry, who is this? Ojo Nimi. I think this is the first time I'm seeing the person. Okay. The likes of Constance, Ahmed Lawal, Olushoga Sheyi, are you on this call? Tejiri, are you on the call? Wale, are you on the call? Nuruddin, Taib Jimo, Ademola. Okay, cool. Wale, are you on this call? Olawale Bakari, are you on this call? Wale is not on this call. Taib
Yes,
Jimo, are you
sir.
on the call?
I am just network
Oh,
is
okay.
very.
Oh,
Yes,
okay, no
yes, I'm on
problem.
the call. I'm on the call.
Oh, okay, cool. So going back, okay, so like I said, if you want to access the conditional access, right? I think I got a rhyme from there. If you want to access conditional access. Okay, so now because I said it's under identity and access management, which is still the same thing as Entra ID, right? Is the identity. So now from this admin portal, right? Sometimes this is the way it will look like. So you just click on show all, right? So once you select show all, you will click on identity, right? So once you click on identity, it will take you to the Entra portal, which is the same thing as entra.microsoft.com, right? So, and let's assume I just want to go from the browser. I can just type entra.microsoft.com. It will take me to the same place. Or for some of us, someone like me, I'm still very much familiar with Azure Portal because I love Azure Portal a lot. I can also go through Azure Portal. So once I go through Azure Portal, I can just come here, this left-hand side. I'm going to find my Entra ID here, which is still the same thing as that identity. Or I should click on Entra ID here. Or I should search for Entra ID here. Still the same thing, right? So if you can see, this thing, everything I have here is also similar. When you look at this, everything I have here is similar to what I have here, right? It's just like different, maybe just a little customization, but it's still the same thing, right? So now, if you want to access conditional access from here, so now this is the identity portal, like I said. So if you want to access conditional access, you can just come to protection, right? Under protection, you will find conditional access here, right? So now I can just click on conditional access. So once I click on conditional access, this is the conditional access portal, right? Or should I say the platform? So now I have policies, right? If I want to create a new policy, I can come here, click on policies. I can from here create a new policy, right? If I have an existing policy, I can just use a template to create from an existing template, or maybe I have a policy that I can just upload. Then if I want to test the policy, I can use this what if. Maybe there's a particular user. I want to know the kind of policy that has been assigned to that user. I can use this what if to test it, right? I think there's someone, right? So now I also have insight and reporting. If I just want to, I want to just, maybe I want to check like, I want to check an insight about the particular policy or stuff. I can always go there. I have name, location. Maybe if I want to customize a particular location, I can get to do that, right? But let me just go to what I want to show us today is with that policy. So if I want to create a policy, I can always come here, right? So this is the way the 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 platform looks like, right? I want to create, let's say for instance, I want to call it maybe a test policy, right? Or maybe I want to make it maybe MFA policy, right? So that means if I want to create a policy, I'll come to my user, So I'll select the user that I want to assign that policy to, right? I have the option to assign the policy to all users. That means if I want to assign it to everybody in the organization. I also have the option um, to select just few people, right? Maybe I want to assign the policy to my guest. Maybe I want to block all the guests from accessing my environment. I can just come here and select guest. So that means the policy I'm creating, I'm assigning it to just the guest, right? I can come here, I can select the kind of guest. Is it B2B, collaboration, maybe local guest users, different types of guest users, right? Or maybe it's a particular role, admin role, that I want to select the policy to. I can see all those admin rights that we have. I can get to see it. So let's say I want to create that policy just for global administrators, or maybe just for maybe AI administrator or application administrator, right? I know that I'm creating that policy just to any user that has this particular admin right, right? So this is one. Or if I want to, this is the one most people use, which is users and group, right? I want to create this policy and I want to assign it to maybe just one person. Maybe because um, who can I use? Maybe because David offended me and I want to block him from signing into my environment. Maybe I'm the global admin in the environment, and maybe because I told David to give me urgent 2K and he refused to give me, and I want to come and block him here. I'll just come here, select David, or maybe Adele. I'll just select Adele. Then I know that that is the person I am creating this policy, or that's the person I'm assigning this policy to. So you have the option to select user or you select a group, right? So as you can see, we can see users, we can see group, right? So let's assume I want to assign it to this particular user, Adele, right? And I also want to assign it to this particular group, communication group. So I have the option to select multiple users, multiple groups, right? So that's that. So once I've selected the user that I want to create the policy to, that I want to assign the policy to, right? Then I'll now come here because, okay, I want to create this policy to this user, but I need to target a particular resource so that if this user is trying to access that particular resource, that's when this policy will come in. Do you understand? So let's say, for instance, now this user wants to sign in into a particular application, right? That's when I want this policy to come in. Then that means I must specify the user. I must specify that application that I want, right? As you can see from here, they've even customized, there are a lot of new things here. And also, I forgot to mention this. So now, let's assume I want to exclude a particular user. I can also click on exclude. Then I'll select the user I want to exclude. So let's say, for instance, this policy I want to create, I want to assign it to everybody in the organization. Let's say I want to assign it to everybody in the organization, right? I can just select all users, right? Once I select all users, then I come here and I exclude certain people. I can always do that, right? So that means I'm creating the policy to everybody in the organization, but I'm excluding this particular person, right? Or I can say that I want to create this policy to a particular group, maybe communications, or maybe all employees, right? But I now have some people, or I have one or two persons in this group that I want to exclude from that policy. So I can always come here and exclude the person, right? So that's that. Then you would also select the resource that you are targeting, right? You can target applications, you can target most times, right? We get to target applications, right? So now I'm coming. So now you have the option to select all applications, or you can target few applications. So let's say, for instance, now I want to create these policies. I want to create a particular policy to block my users from accessing SharePoint. We don't want anybody. I remember there was a particular customer then that said they don't want any of their users to be able to make use of OneDrive within the environment, right? So what I can just do is that I can just come here and select OneDrive as my application. This is loading. So I can come here and type any application that I want. But I don't think OneDrive is here now. Before, OneDrive was there. So if I want to block, okay, don't let me use OneDrive. Let me use maybe SharePoint, or maybe, as you can see, we have LinkedIn here. We have Intune. Let me use a general one. So let's say, okay, we have Viva Engage. Okay, yeah. Viva Engage is Yammer, right? So if I want to block my users from accessing Yammer, or I want to block my users from accessing the Office 365 application in general, or maybe Exchange Online, right? Or maybe Microsoft Form or Cloud App or any kind of application, right? Even if you have on-premise applications that you've integrated with Azure AD, you get to see it there as well, right? So let's assume I want to block my user from accessing this Microsoft 365 app, or don't let me use Microsoft 365. So let me use maybe Power Apps service. So I don't want my users to be able to use Power App service, right? So that means I'm going to select the application, right? So now this network, right? So I said this conditional access, it evaluates different signals, right? It evaluates different signals. As part of the signals, location is also part of the signal. So let's say, for instance, now I don't want my users to be able to access Office application from a particular country, maybe from Germany or from Kenya or from anywhere, or from Russia, right? That means I must have configured my location. I must have configured it. Once I've configured my location, I'll just come here and select the location that I want, right? I can come here and select location. If I click on this place now, I won't find any location. Okay, I think these are the default one, right? But it's possible for me to have selected a particular country, selected different countries. So once I've configured my country, I'm going to see it here. So maybe I don't want users to access this particular application from Russia. That means I must have configured my location. So once I configure it, I'll just come here and select that location. So let's assume this is my Russia location. I'll just select it. Once I select this and I save it, everybody in this group, they won't be able to access this particular resource from this location, right? That's what the policy is stating, right? Then also, even though I haven't defined what it should do, I'm just saying that whenever they want to access this resource from this location, I haven't defined what it's going to do, right? I've only just selected the user, the resource, and the location, right? So now for the condition, there are now different conditions, right? We have user risk level, right? User risk level or user risk is like a particular threshold or a level that a particular user account is compromised, right? So Microsoft use machine learning to check the kind of risk level at which a particular login is coming from. So once it evaluates it, right, and it detects it that this particular user is signing in from a particular location at which that account, as maybe someone is trying to use a particular browser that is not allowed, right? It evaluates it. It also checks the likes of signing risk level as well, right? We have all this insider risk level as well. Then we have device platform. We have location. We have client app. We have devices. We have authentication flow as well, right? So now I want to be fast. So conditional access, it evaluates all these conditions, right? So that means it's as part of the signals, we have risk level, we have device, we have location, we have applications, and we have authentication flow. So if I have selected the kind of condition I want, so let's say for instance, the condition I want to select is a particular browser, right? Or the condition I want to select is a particular device. So this policy I'm creating, I want this policy to only come up into Windows devices alone. Then I will come here and select Windows device. So that means if you are using an Android, you are using an iOS, this policy I'm creating, it won't affect you, right? That's what this thing is saying. So once I've defined my condition, then the next thing I need to do, which is very, very important, is this granting part. So it's either I block that request or I grant the request. So if I grant the request, then I can use multi-factor authentication. Maybe I can say this person, oh, you must make use of multi-factor authentication before you come in, right? Or you must require a very strong authentication strength. Or maybe your device must be compliant before you can come in. Or maybe your device must be joined to hybrid Entra ID, right? Or I must say that you must make use of the application that was approved by your organization before you can sign in. Because there are some people, on your phone, you can use the regular Gmail on your phone to access your office email. There are some organizations that would say, no, we don't want people to use that Gmail to access our email. We only want you to use the approved application that we have, which is Outlook, right? So that's what that is speaking to. Or I can say that, okay, well, before you come in, reset your password to show that you are the one that is actually coming in, right? So now it's either I block or I grant. And if I grant, then I must select any condition here, right? Then the last one is speaking to session, I mean. So this policy, do I want it to come in at all session? No. Yes. Okay, now this policy, do I want to grant it a particular section? So that means, for example, now, do I want it to use the likes of conditional app control? This speaks to cloud app security, right? When we get to cloud app security, you understand like this part very well. This signing frequency, this one is speaking to multi-factor authentication, right? Do I want it to, how often do I want my user to sign in before they can come in, right? We have persistent browser. All these things are speaking to different things. So depending on the kind of policy you are creating, right? So now from our tax, so basically that's the way conditional access looks like. This is how the environment is, right? So like I said, it's a very, very powerful tool which we use in designing how users signing into the organization's environment, right? So it's very, very wide. So you can use this conditional access to perform different things. There are a lot of, as an architect, you can come up with different design for this conditional access, right? So one design, because as part of our tax, right? When we look at this implement and test conditional access for scenarios like blocking access to SharePoint from Kano, Nigeria, right? So this is a particular scenario which is in our tax. So for this kind of scenario, that means we must have created our location. I deliberately added Kano, Nigeria to it, right? So that means we must have defined our location. That means we must have created our location. I said if you want to add location, that means you must have defined your location before you can come in. So let me show us how to define location. If you come to this named location, we have the likes of country location, we have IP locations, and you can also configure your trusted IP if possible. So now, for instance, now I mentioned was it Russia? So I can just come here. I can search for Russia. Let me create my particular location. I'll call it maybe Russia. So this is Russia, right? I'll give it a name. Maybe I want to give it maybe good location. I want to name it good location, right? Or let me just use Russia so that I'll get to remember, right? So I've created my location, right? I've created my location as Russia. So whenever I'm trying to create my policy, if I go to location, let's assume I want to create a new policy, right? And as part of my condition, I want to select my location. As you can see, Russia is now here, right? That's why I said you need to create your location, your location, then you find it here, right? So what if I don't want to use country? Maybe it's an IP address that I want to use, right? I can also come here, right? I can just define my IP range because it uses IP range, the likes of /24 /26 for those of us that understand IP address very well, right? And if I have a list of IPs, I can just come here, upload it, right? So once I've defined my location, my IP or my location, then I can always come here and create my policy. So now these are our tags that we have here, right? Where is it again? These are our tags that we have here. That I said implement and test conditional access policies for scenarios like blocking access to SharePoint from Kano, right? So that means I must first define this my Kano Nigeria. I must first create the location. So once I've created the location, then I will now create my policy to block my user from accessing SharePoint from Kano, right? So it's straightforward. So I think I've done this already for us, straightforward. Then also for multi-factor authentication, which I explained then, I said there are two methods. There are two methods for enabling multi-factor authentication. The first one is security default, and the second one is conditional access. So for the conditional access, I've shown us already. You just come here, click on new policy, right? So let's say it's MFA, right? You select the user that you want to assign the policy to. Let's say I want to assign it to all my users, right? Then I'll target the application I want to assign the MFA to. So if it's all application, or maybe there's a particular application that I want to target it to, I can just select. But for here, I want to use all application, right? Then for network, I don't want to use network. So it's possible for you to skip certain things if it's not important in your policy. So me, I'm not using network here, right? Because I'm not looking at network for my multi-factor authentication. So I'll come to condition. For my multi-factor authentication, I can just come here and select device because I want to select this policy. I want to assign it to all device. So multi-factor authentication will come in from any kind of device you are using, right? Then I'll also come here and select the kind of application you are using. Do I want multi-factor authentication to come in to just browsers? Do I want it to come into just applications, right? So that's why we have the likes of browser application, then legacy client, right? So I'll select what I want. Then from here, this is where I'm going to use the multi-factor authentication. So that means I want to grant you access, but you must go through multi-factor authentication. So once I select this, that's all for my multi-factor authentication, right? Then if I want to use session control, I can also get to use session control, right? Like sign-in frequency, like maybe if this user have signed in into this particular browser or into this particular app for certain number of days. I don't want MFA to come in again. You understand, though? I don't want the person to re-authenticate again. So you can get to customize it on this, right? Then once I'm done with that, then I'll either on, maybe I want to put it on report only, right? Just for me to report, just to get report on it before I enable it, or I want to enable it. But as you can see from here, you can see a warning. Don't lock yourself out because I'm assigning this policy to all users. What if there's something wrong, right? And I own this policy. That means it will affect me. I might not be able to sign in, right? So that's why it's always advisable that whenever you are creating this policy, always exclude hourglass account, maybe a particular account, so that if there's an issue, you can always use that account to sign in and fix the issue, right? So this is straightforward. I've given us an expo for this our first for this our tax, enable multi-factor authentication using conditional access. For security default is also straightforward, even though I don't want to show us I don't want to show us how to do the security default. So let's make the research by ourselves. So we should know how to enable multi-factor authentication using security default, right? So what's the time? There's still time. Okay, this is still 10:38. So that's about that. So for the next the next um the next solution is enable and configure identity protection to detect potential risks, the likes of risk credentials, impossible travel, right? So now, this identity protection, what does it do, right? So now, let's say I'm currently working from Lagos, Nigeria, right? And I signed in into my office application in Lagos. I signed in Lagos. I mean from Lagos. And in the next minute, I'm trying to sign in from maybe Canada or from China or from a very far location. Then that means there's something wrong. It's either my credential has been stolen or there's an impossible travel activity because why would I travel from Lagos to I signed into my account from Lagos now, and in the next 1 minute I'm trying to sign in from China. That means there's something wrong. It's either I'm using a VPN or my credential has been compromised, has been stolen, right? So it is identity protection that helps to detect those kind of abnormal behaviors, right? So conditional access helps you to detect those kind of behaviors, right? I'm trying to sign in into my environment, but I imputed wrong password for like 5 times or multiple wrong password. Then there's something wrong. Identity protection will flag that, right? So now for me to access this identity protection, it's still from the Entra portal because it's still under identity. This is the Entra portal. This is the Entra portal, right? So if I go to this protection, this was where I saw conditional access. Just above it, I can find my identity protection here. So because it's a fresh account, right? Because it's a fresh account, I mean a fresh demo, right? That's why I'm unable to see any or I'm unable to find any report here, right? So from here, I can always come here to see, let's say there are some risky users within my environment. I can come here, I'll find the risky users. I can see, okay, let me show you another environment that have real users there. I prefer using Azure Portal. That's why I went through that. So this is my identity protection portal, right? As you can see the dashboard, you can see about 47 users. I can see different remediated users. I can see high risky users. If I click on this, I can see list of, because it automatically remediates itself, right? So you might not even see the users. But as you can see, 15 users has been remediated in the past 30 days, right? So if I now come to this place, if I come to risky users, right? Let me filter it. No, don't let me use. Okay, let's see deleted. Would I be able to see? Let me filter. Okay, so let's see. Then I'm not getting any result here, but I'm not getting any result here. It has been remediated. Let me see if I can see under risky signing. I think I should be able to get from risky signing because I can filter for 90 days. Come up, come up, come up, come up, come up. So let me filter for the past 1 month. Oh, my internet is about to go. Okay, so my inverter is already crying. So where's the tax? Just to show my dashboard before I leave you, at least show something. Let me look for incoming. Should I view attacks? View remediated users? Okay, so these are some of the users that the identity protection has remediated. Has remediated for me, right? So this is about this. Am I still audible? Okay, I still have people
Yes, you
here.
are audible.
Yeah. So now my router, I mean my inverter is down. So going back to our task, right? So now let's get to read up about all these things, right? They are straightforward. So for example, now you can just go online, search for multi-factor authentication. You'll see a lot of videos, understand it, perform the task, right? Same thing, you can leave this AD Connect because you don't have an on-premise AD, so you can skip this, right? But for this, watch videos. I've shown us how to do this one. It's straightforward. Then this one too, I've shown us how to do this one. Just understand the identity protection portal, create the user risk policy, right? You can use conditional access to create it. From this my conditional access, um, from this my conditional access, let's go back to conditional access. If I want to create a policy, right? I showed us user risk from this place. No, condition. You can see user risk, you can see sign-in risk. So that's what we have in this place. So you just use conditional access to create this kind of policy, right? Then also use Entra ID portal. That's the Azure Active Directory portal to review your sign-in and to review and analyze your sign-in logs, right? So still from the Entra ID portal, right? Enter ID portal. If I go to this identity protection, oh, my internet is gone. I can see my user risk policy. I can see my risky users as well, right? But then I want to use a live environment to show us this thing, right? So if I come here, I go back to my dashboard. Ah, my internet will go now. Let me go back to this. So from this place, I can see my sign-in logs, right? So um, I can get to review the sign-in logs. So let's just, before my internet goes down. So I've given us expo on how to do it. Then you read up on SSPR, straightforward, identity protection, web application proxy, passwordless, identity. So just let's get to do, because this task is very huge. So it might take us like 2 weeks before we can complete it. But let's just get to read up on this. We should do what we can do before our next call, which is on Saturday, right? So I think that is straightforward. Do we have any question before we let me on my hotspot?
You just said we should read up on SSPR. What is SSPR?
I said you should read up on SSPR, right? What was
Yes,
the
what is that
question?
SSPR? What is
I want you to
SSPR?
read it. I want you to read it. That's why I said you should read up on it. If I explain it to you, then there's no.
SSPR.
Is here already. Self-service password is set. This is it. Self-service password is set. So everything here, read up on it, implement it within your environment. It's straightforward, right? Is that okay by us? Hello?
That's okay.
Yeah.
That's okay.
So let's read up on it. Let's try to implement it. If you have any issue while you are implementing it, right? You can always drop a chat in the WhatsApp group. That's why I want the WhatsApp group to be interactive. If you have any issue, drop it on the WhatsApp group. We would respond. I would respond. We have people on the group that would also respond if I'm not available, right? So let's get to do that. So anything we can do before Saturday, I want us to read it by ourselves, right? I'm just taking my time to explain so that once you are reading it, it will be easier for you, right? But then when you make the research yourself, it sticks better, right? So I think we are cool, right? So our next call will be on Saturday, inshallah. I mean, by God's grace, inshallah, right? So, do we have any question before that? Let me just put it on my hotspot before this thing is off. Do we have questions? I mean, so, okay, it's still on. So now, let me just explain anything I can explain before it Okay. Hello. 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 Am I audible?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So apologies. Like I said, my um, my router went down then. So I think we are good. So we have the task to perform. So let's try to perform our task. And we'll connect again on Saturday, same time, 9 p.m. on Saturday. Right. I think there's someone that asked the question, what time on Saturday? Is 9 p.m. on Saturday. So so I'll see everyone on Saturday. Thank you. So for Olawale, is Olawale still on the call? Olawale has left. But do you have any questions? Do you have any questions? Hello, Chidi, Debbie, Doyin, Emmanuel, John, Usman,
No question.
Constance. No question. Okay. So thanks to everyone for joining today's session. Even though it wasn't as interactive as our last session, right? But then I'm sure our next call will be a little bit more interactive than this. Chidi, you wanted to say something?
Yes, good evening,
Yeah,
everybody.
good evening.
So my
Yeah.
question is this, like sometimes when signing on, like you're trying to sign up, say on a new website, all right, and then you put in your username, and in the part where you're supposed to write your passwords, there are conditions like, okay, you have to use maybe a figure, a symbol, and then letters, and then you have to have like maybe more than 8 characters. Would that count as a conditional like for you to access? Would that also count under like conditional access? Like since you have to like fulfill those conditions for you to sign up on that website.
So that one is under password policy. It's under password
Okay.
policy. It's under the complexity password policy. Right. Yeah.
Okay.
It's under password policy. Yeah. Not
Okay. So
conditional
that's
access.
different
Yeah.
from this particular
Yeah,
one.
that's different from.
Okay. Okay. All right. Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah. So any other question? Even though I would have loved to explain more, but then let's see what we can do before the next call. Thank you everyone. See everyone on Saturday by God's grace. So I've stopped recording. So for the recorded session, right? For the recording, I'm going to upload it